Hello everyone! Today, Boom suddenly dropped the long-awaited 75th episode, and I'm not going to lie to you, I was pretty much surprised when it happened. Because it's not really typical of Boom to drop the episode that suddenly and without previous warming up around the time of its release. But well, I guess some things have really changed now. And today's episode actually confirmed all the theories I had about the future of Skibidi Toilet Universe. And in this video, I'll tell you everything about it. And I'll also show you all the secrets and Easter eggs that you could have definitely missed on your own. Did Skibidi and the Alliance's forces actually get united against Astro toilets? And what consequences can it bring? Who is this girl in the body of a Skibidi mutant who saved the POV? And most importantly, will Titan TV Man accept the idea of uniting with Skibidi toilets and especially with G-Man after all? So if you want to find all the answers to these questions, then get your tea and snacks ready and prepare to watch this video to the end, not to miss anything important because it's going to blow your mind for sure. Let's go! And the new episode starts in the completely new location, as it has been already teased to us by Boom before, who stated that he's been working on another map for his upcoming episode. And it's an open space, rainy location with multiple buildings around it, and the general vibe of this place feels very Half-Life 2 to me personally. And we can see how the POV is looking around the corner carefully while being covered with these garage doors. And what he sees is another wave of Astro Toilets invasion, which is destroying basically everything in this place. And then we can see the Astro Toilet that already showed up in episode 74, although we couldn't really see him in action that time. And by the way, it was his actual head that was spoiled to us in one of the 5 leaks that Boom posted on his Instagram page, because he has an identical device around his head and the same face. This is Carrier Astro Toilet. And man, in today's episode, he looks pretty damn huge and powerful. He's got 3 giant laser cannons that are capable of shooting in all the possible directions, which makes him a terrible foe to fight with, as he's basically able to damage multiple targets at the same time without staying hit himself. And he's got even 2 more cannons on his front side that just seem to be inactive at this particular moment. And to add even more, these lasers seem to be so thick and powerful that it looks like this Astro Toilet's primal goal is to destroy everything around him, including not only specific targets, but the whole areas or buildings. And what also caught my attention about this particular toilet is how he's being also equipped with the huge core in the center of his body. And I haven't seen this sort of cores on any other Astro Toilet before. The only other Astro Toilet I can think of is this guy that showed up right at the end of episode 74. But in any case, these cores weren't typical for Astro Toilet's fraction at all, so it gave me a few ideas to think about. What if this core technology was initially stolen from the Alliance, as it was their Titans who used to get cores in the first place? And after that, some of the most important Skibidi toilets got this technology too. But it's no wonder that Skibidi had been stealing their opponents' technologies to continue this never-ending arms race. And cores were not the only thing that they stole from the Alliance. Just remember the TV men's glowing screens, for example, that then were used against the agents of the Alliance themselves. But the most famous Skibidi wearer of Titans-like core was, of course, our beloved G-Man, who has his own weird connections to Astro Toilet's fraction too. So can it be so that Astro Toilet stole this core technology not from the Alliance itself, but directly from G-Man, who is also their #1 target at the moment? And it would make everything even more interesting, considering the fact that G-Man is about to become the secret weapon which is meant to slay Astro Toilets. So it's possible that when he appears on stage in all of his glory, finally he'll be met with the technology similar to his. But those are just my speculations at this point, so of course we've got to wait until the next episode release to learn more information about G-Man and what's going to come with him. Okay, and in the next couple of frames, 2 camera helicopters appear in front of Astro Carrier and try to damage him in the air while shooting right in his face, but of course it couldn't be done that easily, because then this huge foe reveals another ability that he has, and it's the portable shield that's protecting his face. Although it's pretty interesting to me, because why would he need to protect his face and not his core, for example? Or maybe having the face untouched is crucial for him in case his eyes would get hurt, so he's be able to see and track all the targets around him. And it's also possible that it's this interesting thingy around his head that has to be protected, and not his own face exactly. It's plausible that this thing serves some special purpose for this Astro Toilet, or maybe it even gathers some sensory information around Astro Carrier and sends all the data to Astro Mothership Control Center directly. Okay, and then while these two camera helicopters were trying to deal with Astro carrier, we see the whole bunch of larger camera helicopters that are fleeing the battlefield at huge speed. And this scene looked really serious. I mean, who could possibly drive away so many powerful camera helicopters at once? They looked like literal birds fleeing from some terrible catastrophe like hurricane or something like that. And just a second later, we see that I was almost right about the catastrophe, because it turned out that it was a literal swarm of Astro toilets that were driving the Alliance's helicopters away. And man, just check out this terrible speed and the number of missiles that they were also dropping in the process of their flight. Camera helicopters stood no chance against such foes, and all of them were shot and destroyed in the matter of literal seconds. It is obvious to me now that Astro toilets didn't come to play during this huge raid at all, and their mission is indeed to eliminate as many targets as possible in order to conquer the Earth and make this planet all for themselves, which is pretty freaking disgusting. So I hope that the secret weapon in a form of G-Man will arrive soon, and put these freaks on their place so that they wouldn't upset Greta Thunberg with their terrible impact on the planet's environment no more. Okay, and then it seemed like the POV couldn't look at all this madness anymore, and he decided to go back to the building he was hiding in at the moment. And in the next scene, we can see that he's obviously not alone in here, and there are the cameramen who were also showed to us in the leaks that Boom posted in his Instagram account. So now I can see why they seemed so upset on these pictures. And although while analyzing these leaks, I suggested that they were so upset due to the fact that they just witnessed the awful results of the Astro toilet raid in episode 74 and even saw the Titan cameraman's heroic sacrifice, now I see that I was right, but just partly. This regular cameraman, who was watching everything in pair with the POV, also gets back inside, leans on the wall, and closes his head camera with the heads, which looks just tragic. And now I see that he was indeed terrified by the results of Astro Toilet's invasion, but in a completely new location, which unfortunately doesn't help at all. And the big cameraman who's sitting next to him seems to share his broken morale. And by the way, he misses his right arm, which can be now explained by the fact that he may lost it in the heated fight with the Astro toilet sometime not long ago. But thankfully, there are still cameramen in this room that didn't give up completely. For example, this iconic Commander cameraman who continues to smoke a cigar just like he already did in the second secret scene for Season 24 compilation video. And by the way, it looks like it may be the same guy based on the color of his shirt, tie, and cap. Although in the leak that Boom posted in his Instagram page, there seemed to be a completely different commander. So maybe Boom just changed the models while working on this episode, I don't really know. And there are also some other cameramen with weapons who look like they are ready to strike whatever is coming to their hideout. And of course, now it's time to say a few words about the POV cameraman himself, because when we were shown his figure for a moment, we could notice a glimpse of yellow sleeve under his black coat, which means that this is the cameraman in the yellow shirt, and the purple tie that was also shown to us in the leaks before. Well, this was a pretty logical choice for the next POV, though, and I hope he'll be a damn good replacement for Plungerman, considering that we're lacking strong POVs now in terms of cameramen. And he's also got a pretty cool-looking blue weapon, which looks powerful enough, and I hope that he'll be able to put it into good use soon enough. And by the way, in this frame, we can see that this squad was hiding into some sort of large hangar with lots of empty space in it. So it's not the facility belonging to the Alliance as I initially thought when I saw the leaks for this episode. The POV then hears other sounds of explosions, so he turns back to the open street in order to see what the heck is going on in there. And he sees the whole bunch of Skibidi mutants and toilets that arrived to this place. And I don't want to bully you guys or anything like that, but don't you think that y'all are way too small for Astro toilets that are capable of eliminating literal crowds of battle cameramen helicopters? Although I don't know, maybe these poor Skibidi were trying to escape from other Astro toilets raid as well so that they arrived in here. But it was a poor choice nevertheless. Well, at least they could have screamed their typical Skibidi Skibidi dop yes yes, a little bit quitter so that they wouldn't get discovered so easily. And just a second later, two Obliterator Astro toilets with the X-Wings-like shape appear like wolves that smelled the flavor of raw meat. They just stare at the hopeless group of small Skibidi for a few seconds, then turn their heads towards each other and start grinning in a maniac-like way because they knew for sure what was about to come next. Those poor Skibidi were cooked since the moment they stepped in this zone in the first place, so let's press F for those hopeless freaks in advance. Meanwhile, both Astro obliterators, who still continuing to smile eerily, use the special orange devices covering one of their eyes, which allows them to navigate the missiles from the larger distance. Then we hear the sound of the power buildup. And for a second, the POV looks back at the Skibidi, who look absolutely terrified in that moment. The large Skibidi toilet looks at Astro obliterators and says Skibidi in a really pitiful way. Maybe he was trying to beg those two Astros not to destroy him and his comrades, or probably that was just his last word that could have been translated, "US Lord, have mercy on us," or something like that. In any case, this scene looked really cruel. And I even felt sorry for these Skibidi toilets a lot because, man, they looked like total victims in this hopeless situation. And I must also add that at this moment, those Skibidi toilets also reminded me of regular human beings. I mean, they weren't acting crazy or reckless, so instead they just looked genuinely terrified and scared of what was about to come on their heads. And I'll also talk about this a little bit later, so be sure to watch this video to the end not to miss anything important. So of course, this unfortunate group of Skibidi toilets gets literally obliterated from all the sides because there was another Astro obliterator that showed up behind them. So this looked not like an unfair fight, but a literal destruction. And do you know what this reminded me of, guys? This cruel scene looked extremely similar to the infamous village destruction scene from Skibidi Multiverse from Dom Studio, where pencilmen seemed to serve a role of like some real bad guys in the dark uniform that spoke in German language and did lots of terrible things 60 years ago. I hope you got exactly what I was trying to say, because YouTube would punish me really bad if I used more precise words regarding these group of people. So yeah, it really looks like Astro Toilets decided to destroy the whole freaking population of the Earth because they're extremely vile and disgusting creatures. They're getting overblown from their power, and it definitely looks like some sort of balance has to be restored in Skibidi Toilet Universe ASAP before it would get too late already. And now I see exactly what the secret agent meant when he had been saying to Plungerman that Astro Toilets are much bigger threat. These freaks are literally unstoppable in their agenda at the moment. And it also looks like they have some real deep hatred for Skibidi Toilets especially, and I believe that it may be connected directly to G-Man and his hypothetical betrayal. Well, at least that's what Astro Detainer accused him of back in episode 72. So maybe Astro Toilets are hating on G-Man, who supposedly betrayed him and joined Skibidi Scientists Fraction instead. And that's why they seem to eliminate other Skibidi Toilets with such hatred and passion. And then, as the POV looks at the distance, we see the emergence of another Astro freak on the horizon. We see how another Skibidi toilet tries to escape this awful place from the air, but his attempts are getting stopped abruptly with the very clunky sound by this Astro toilet, who looks like a mini version of Astro Juggernaut. So should I call him Juggerson or something like that? Because this dude looks literally like an offspring of Astro Juggernaut, and it will even be sort of hilariously confirmed later in this episode. Okay, but let's get back to business now. After a second, Juggerson feels that someone is watching him, I guess, so he raises his head and stares right into the POV's soul. And in that moment, we can hear the sound that lots of video games use when your character gets detected by an enemy. So it would be the best option to reload your current save and start the stealth mission since the beginning. But unfortunately, the POV cannot do that. Meanwhile, Juggerson starts approaching the POV's shelter rapidly. And man, that doesn't look good for our squad of cameramen survivors at all. But thankfully, these guys are much tougher than the group of Skibidi toilets that we saw earlier, and they're not intended to give up and surrender at all. So the POV and all the other cameramen that were close to the doors start going deeper into the hangar and create as much distance from the upcoming attack as possible. And meanwhile, the POV with the rest of his teams are also getting their weapons ready for a massive blast. And it seems to me that these weapons were made specifically to target Astro Toilets, and their technology is even somewhat similar to the missiles that Astro Toilets use themselves. But it also seems to me that Juggerson and other elite sort of Astro mobs are really durable, and their defense systems are extremely high. Okay. And then Juggerson simply rams up through the wall on the left side from the POV like an angered bull or something like that. And he's so powerful that it wasn't difficult for him to tear this whole steel wall apart as if it was made of paper. He's rushing straight to the POV, and along his way he simply brushes off this poor cameraman somewhere like he was just a plain wooden toy for him. and as a result, this cameraman's body gets simply cut off at 2 parts from the blades on Juggerson's right arm, which is just nasty as hell. And it seems like this guy wants the POV to have the similar fate, so he keeps rushing towards him with his blades ready to strike. But thankfully, our POV seems to be a really skilled guy who's operating his jetpack in a really awesome way. So he manages to dodge all the attacks from this terrible Astro dude, while all his comrades are frying him up with their red laser cannons. So eventually the Astro Toilet has to look away from his delicious target in yellow shirt and focus on other cameramen instead that keep shooting him from all of their blasters. And he then puts up the shield to save his metal skin from getting cooked to the bone. So it seems to me that elite Astro Toilets are not invincible after all. And within some time of successful shooting at them, it is possible to damage those freaks as well, although their level of protection is still undoubtedly high at the same time. But unfortunately, Astro Toilets are extremely difficult targets to keep in one place, because the other ability that they all have, and infamously well known for, is their insane speed that they can activate whenever it's comfortable for them. And this is exactly what Astro Juggerson does when he seems to run out of any other options to resist the cameramen's attacks. So with his shield still on, he simply rushes through the whole hangar, destroying the unfortunate agents that were on his way and crumpling the container's hulls like paper. And then he comes back immediately at lightning speed after he destroyed all the agents at the end of this hangar with his thick laser attack. So the POV, the big cameraman and a handful of other cameramen are the only survivors remaining in this hangar, and they're preparing to fight till their last breath. The big cameraman takes the rocket launcher cartridge into his hand while waiting for Juggerson to return, and the POV is ready to strike with his cannon. So when it seemed like Astro Juggerson's attention is going to be fully focused on the POV, he somehow changes his plans within a literal second, activates his shield, and then use it as a battering ram to tumble upon the other poor survivors. He then tries to destroy the big cameraman in the most painful way possible, but fortunately our brother's rocket launcher was not used for nothing, so the giant explosion occurs and hits Juggerson right into his disgusting face. But unfortunately, that's not enough to even stun this freak, and in order to punish the big cameraman's audacity, Astro Juggerson simply tears his head camera off. And then he switches to another target, which is the yellow-shirted POV who's right in front of him. The Astro Toilet puts up his shield again and tries to stomp us with his initial ramming tactics. But fortunately, the POV is able to learn from his fallen comrade's mistakes, so he doesn't allow Astro Juggerson to move any closer towards him. So he uses his jetpack again in a really clever way while trying to damage the jerk from the distance. But unfortunately, the Astro's thick lasers got to him in the end, and it seems like the POV even became unconscious for a few seconds and his head camera got simply turned off for a short period of time. And while he was trying to get himself together and get back on his feet, Astro Juggerson slowly approached him as if he was enjoying the helplessness of his opponent, which proved my initial point about Astro Toilets and how they are just huge jerks who are reveling in their own power. So Juggerson is not even trying to use his blades to finish the POV off, and instead he's starting to prepare a fatal attack with 2 of cannons on his chest. But guess what happens at this moment? A Skibidi shows up behind Juggerson's back, and bro, I just cannot take this seriously anymore. Just check out the commander cameraman who's sitting right on top of this Skibidi with his cannon being ready to strike. And he basically saves the POV's life as he distracted the Astro Toilet with his precise shot. And by the way, what's interesting about the Skibidi toilet under his feet are 2 blue rings on his shoulders, because they look really similar to what Skibidi Kleiner used to have. So maybe this Skibidi uses the similar technology, which is definitely a good thing. But instead of lasers, this Skibidi uses those rings to throw extremely powerful grenades that deal just a ton of damage to this Astro Toilet when they finally hit their target. And this is not the end for all the plot twists. And by the way, I also found it really hilarious how Juggerson was almost knocked off his feet with these grenades while still blasting from his laser cannons. Because in that moment, he literally looked like a man who was trying to use the urinal while getting attacked by a bum at the same time. And then, when the poor freak was trying to get to his senses, another huge laser faced his back, and this time it came from the other Skibidi Toilet, who seemed to wait his whole life for an opportunity like this. The angered Juggerson drifts around and replies with an even bigger attack, causing this poor Skibidi Toilet to scream in the most hilarious way possible. And apparently this hilarious scream was voiced out by this gentleman. So thank you for such an excellent voice actor service, bro, but thankfully there are plenty of other Skibidi who are ready to avenge their brother. For example, this kamikaze Skibidi toilet who jumps on Astro Juggernaut from behind with the fierce Skibidi line. And then he explodes while damaging the freak with both acid and fire. And I bet this dude was simply dumbfolded by that attack. And by the way, in the next frame, we can see how parts of ISOTOILET's body simply started falling off from such heated blasts in his turn. And while Juggernaut was trying to destroy whatever is in front of him like a complete idiot, our POV doesn't waste his time and adds a toilet paper grenade to this hot pile of garbage this ISOTOILET represents right now. And the explosion from it hits Juggernaut so hard that one of his largest cannons falls off as well. And while he tries to punish POV angrily, another Skibidi mutant jumps on him from above, and wait a minute, this is actually a girl. But we'll talk about her later. And for now, let's watch how hard Astro Juggernaut was being cooked in this scene by literally everyone around him. At the end, our mixed team finally manages to tear a helmet off the freak's head, so we can see that this toilet has a humanoid head as well. Although it seems to me like his skull has been already torn into pieces as it should be. And then the female Skibidi mutant jumps on him once again, and starts angrily drilling his skull, splashing the blood in all directions. And okay, Slay Girl, I already like you a lot. Of course, Astro Juggernaut couldn't resist such a powerful attack, and his soul finally went to another realm. And in the next shot, we were shown our new iconic duo, which is Commander Cameraman, who's still smoking his cigar, although there are no mouth and lungs in his body. And his new Skibidi buddy is standing next to him. Commander Cameraman notices how the POV observes their whole team and just shrugs at him as if he was saying something like, well, okay, it's kind of weird, but I'm fine with it. And honestly, this was my reaction to this episode too. The union between Skibidi toilets and the Alliance's forces is indeed a crazy concept in theory. But considering that I was predicting such a plot twist since the beginning of this month, if not even earlier, I'm not really that surprised in the end, my friends. But it's not the end for our new team, because then we can hear another portion of eerie sounds from the outside. The POV looks at the female mutant who puts a finger near her lips as if she was saying, "Be quiet, bro." And man, she's just such a badass already. And also when I saw her face at detail, I couldn't help but remember about the blonde girl in police uniform that was shown to us in the secret scene of the full 73rd episode. She resembles her a lot, although I'm pretty sure that those are completely different characters. Then the whole team starts walking quietly to the exit of this hangar so that they could finally leave this cursed place once and for all. But then suddenly a huge jump scare comes on a form of Astro Juggernaut's voice who says, "I can see you through walls." What a chilling statement, bro. And right after that, he rips the whole freaking roof of the hangar off, and here he is, our old buddy from the end of episode 72. And I was predicting his return quite a lot in all my theory videos regarding episode 75, so it's good to see him, kind of, because at the same time, he's way too terrifying in here. And then just a moment later, his eyes are stopping at the fallen Juggernaut's body, and Astro Juggernaut whispers, "What?" He really looks like a disappointed dad whose son just got washed by the group of school bullies, and it even made me chuckle a little bit. And to make things even more hilarious, Astro Juggernaut then adds, "My baby." And guys, wait a minute, what is even going on in here? Maybe Astro Juggernaut was a bothering mommy all this time. This is genuinely insane. I think we called the wrong Astro mothership after all, if you get what I mean by this. But Juggernaut still hasn't done yapping, so he yells, "You will pay." While the mixed team has already left the hangar and closed the self-made door behind them. Then the female mutant grabs us closer to her and sets off in the air, and in that moment we can notice two completely opposite things. First of all, it's her beautiful face, which doesn't seem brain-rotten at all. Otherwise, she looks like a completely sane person that somehow turned out to be in the toilet too. And second of all, we can hear an eerie sound of the explosion, which is soon to come and fry our butts, so I got a pretty mixed feeling overall. And although Blondie tried to get us as far as possible from this cursed hangar, the shocking wave of that explosion still got both of us, and the POV's head camera started behaving weirdly once again. And if we'll look at this scene when his camera started glitching frame by frame, then we will see that it looks like the POV got knocked off the Blondie's hands and started falling to the ground. But before we'll already start speculating on his possible passing, A few dark seconds later, we see how the POV has already gained consciousness. And he indeed fell to the ground and even got buried by pieces of rocks everywhere. But overall, he still managed to stay alive, which is a great thing. The whole team seemed to get down to save him and helped him get up on his feet. And man, this is too wholesome for my heart. And check out these two buddies. It seems like they have already become the best friends. While the female mutant seems to be more cold and apathetic, so he stands a little bit aside from her team, and I feel like she had some really rough stories to tell from her past. The POV looks at her and then shows her a thumbs up, which is such an unbelievable thing to show to a literal Skibidi toilet. And she doesn't know how to respond to this yet, so she just lowers her head and looks at the POV in the funny way. Oh, hey, you two! Is something happening here, or am I tripping? And on such sassy note, today's episode ends. And oh man, I have so many ideas regarding this group of Skibidi toilets that teamed up with cameraman survivors. But I think that I'll make a separate video about these guys specifically, so that my analysis wouldn't turn out to be an hour long. And that was all for today. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, hit the like button below, and also be sure to write a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube and Discord channels, not to miss my new interesting videos. And that was me, ISOTOILET. See ya!